be discussing the Z double prime score and the bond rating equivalence in continuation of the previous topic, which is the Altman Z. Z double prime score is used for manufacturing companies, and here is the formula for the non-manufacturing companies. In the left side is the financial ratios that needs to be calculated, and in the right side is the Altman Z score model for non-manufacturing companies interpretation, where a value of Z of less than 1.1 represents that the company is in distress zone. Such company shows large risk of heading towards bankruptcy and considered to have a poor financial health. And if the value of Z is between 2.6 and 1.1, it represents that the company is in caution zone. Such company shows moderate risk of heading towards bankruptcy. And if the value of Z is over 2.6 and over 4, it represents that the company is in safe zone, and such company is less likely to have a bankruptcy, and it is considered to have a good financial health. An example of a financial statement of a non-manufacturing company, which is the Philex Mining and Corporation and subsidiaries. So I'll be using the year 2019, and here are the components that are included. The total current asset, which is 2.9 million, the total asset, which is 37.8 million, the total current liability, which is 4.9 million, the total liabilities, which is 14.9 million, the retained earning, which is 13.9 million because I add the two retained earnings, and the income before income tax, which is negative 1 million. After we get all the values, we are now going to substitute it to the financial ratio. So to solve for x1, we need to divide the working capital to the total asset. To solve for the working capital, you need to subtract the total current asset, which is 2.9 million, to the total current liability, which is 4.9 million, then divide it to 37.8 of total asset. So the value of x1 is equal to 0.05. So to solve for x2, we need to divide the retained earnings, which is 13.9 million, to the total asset, which is 37.8 million. So the value of x2 is 0.37. To solve for x3, you need to divide the EBIT, which is negative 1 million, to the total asset, which is 37.8 million. So the value of x3 is negative 0.03. And last is x4. To solve for x4, you need to divide the book value of an equity to the total liabilities. To solve for the book value of equity, you need to subtract the total asset, which is 37.8 million, to the total liability, which is 14.9 million, and then divide it to the total liability, which is 14.9 million. So the value of x4 is 1.54. After we get all the value of the financial ratio, we are now going to substitute it to the formula. So 6.56 times negative 0.05 plus 3.26 times 0.37 plus 6.72 times negative 0.03 plus 1.05 times 1.54 is equal to 2.3. A 2.3 value of Z represents that the company is in caution zone, and that its financial position and instability is moderate, and there is a chance of bankruptcy. Double prime score is also used in companies in emerging market. So here's the formula for the emerging market. In the left side is the financial ratios that needs to be calculated, and in the right side is the Altman Z score model interpretation. The only difference between the formula of the emerging market and the non-manufacturing market is in emerging market, they add 3.25. So since Philippines is one of the emerging markets, so I'll be using again the Philex Mining Corporation and subsidiaries in 2019. So here are the components that needs to be included. The total current asset, which is 2.9 million, the total asset, which is 37.8 million, the total current liability, which is 4.9 million, the total liability, which is 14.9 million, the retained earnings, which is 13.9 million, and the income before income tax, which is negative 1 million. So after we get all the value of this, we are now going to substitute it to the financial ratio. To solve for x1, you need to divide the working capital to the total asset. To solve for the working capital, you need to subtract the total current asset, which is 2.9 million, to the total current liability, which is 4.9 million, and then divide it to the total asset, which is 37.8 million. So the value of x1 is negative 0.05. To solve for x2, you need to divide the retained earnings, which is 13.9 million, to the total asset, which is 37.8 million, and the value of x2 is 0.37. To solve for x3, you need to divide the EBIT, which is negative 1 million, to the total asset, which is 37.8 million. So the value of x3 is negative 0.03. Last is the x4. To solve for the x4, you need to divide the book value of an equity to the total liabilities. To solve for the book value of the equity, you need to subtract the total asset, which is 37.8 million, to the total liability, which is 4.9 million, and then divide it to the total liability, which is 14.9 million. So the value of x4 is 1.54. After we get all the value of the financial ratio, we are now going to substitute it to the formula. So 3.25 plus 6.56 times negative 0.05 plus 3.26 times 0.37 plus 6.72 times negative 0.03 plus 1.05 times 1.54 is equal to 5.55. 5.55 value of Z represents that the company is in safe zone and that its financial stability and financial position and stability is very strong and there is no chance of having bankruptcy. Next is the bond rating equivalent or the BRE. Bond rating equivalent is used as a benchmark of creditworthiness. It is a way to measure creditworthiness of a bond in corresponding of the cost of borrowings of an issuer. This rating is given to a bond to indicate its credit qualities. Bond ratings are expressed as letter ranging from AAA, which is the highest grade, to D, which is the lowest grade or in default. So to understand more the bond rating equivalent, here is the rating definition of every letter. From AAA to A, this bond is considered as best quality because it shows many favorable investment attributes and they can carry small degree of investment risk. So the obligor capacity to meet its financial commitment on the obligation is also extremely high. So from BBB to B, these bonds are considered as the medium grade obligation because it is neither highly protected or poorly secured. However, they face major ongoing uncertainties, which appears adequate. This is also more likely to lead to a weakened capacity of the obligor to meet its financial statement commitment on the obligation. So from CCC to C, this bond is considered as poor standing. It can be regarded as the having extremely poor prospect of attaining real investment, and bankruptcy petition has been filed or similar action has been taken, but payment of this obligation are being continued. So last is the D, which is considered as the default. Payment on an obligation are not made on the date due even if the applicable grace period has not expired, and the payment of this obligation is jeopardized.